so I'm back again. I made up a new platform. It goes on the top of a Helium stick. I have the whole season pretty much to hunt, so I didn't even try to get shotgun tags. So during shotgun seasons, I just do all the ideas that I've had in my head, and this was one of them. I've seen stick top platforms made by other people, so I just figured I would see what I could come up with on my own, and here it is. Before I get started, I'm going to go over a couple things. I can't recommend that anybody do this. If you do, you're definitely taking this into your own hands. I feel like it's safe. I've been using it for since the first shotgun season, so well over a month and a half, something like that, and it's no issues, doesn't slip, doesn't do anything that I would be concerned about. But all of the Facebook guardian angels out there think that when you make something, you're looking to kill yourself, and that's not the case. Love my family. Definitely don't want to do anything like that. Don't want to go out and die. No, Scotty, if I do die, you can't have my wife. But here it is. I'm going to go over all the tools and a bunch of the different things that I've learned. It looks like it's a pretty simple thing, and it really is, but I've learned a lot just by messing with it and modifying and changing my idea and design over time. So the only real tools that you're gonna need, you could use other ones, but you'll need a grinder. It helps if you've got a regular cutoff wheel and a grinding wheel, because the grinding wheel you can come back in later on and cut little grooves in and stuff to add traction to the top of the step. But so a grinder, preferably with both wheels, and a drill. The drill bit, I use a 1/4-20, I believe it's 1.5" bolts, grade 8 bolts. So your drill bit, you should probably go just they are 1.5" grade 8 bolts. So your drill bit, you should probably go just a hair bigger than that. Go with a 9/32 or 17/64 is what I have written down here. I didn't have the math all in my head, but you'll just need 2 of these actually. 1.5" grade 8 bolts, washers, nuts, lock washers, whichever way you want, whichever way you do it. You have lock nuts or lock washers. I think you can probably get both in grade 8, whichever way you want to go with. You'll want to put a washer on both sides of this, and then I'll show you there's a little space on the hawk stick. You can see where it comes across and then raises up and then drops back down. Well, if you put this platform directly on there, you'll have a little gap there. So making sure that you have a washer to fill that gap across there to make this level will help you from bending this. Like I said, I did a lot of experimenting on this. My first one, I took off these steps, and they have a little bit of weight to them, and I left them off, and I ended up cutting a little piece of aluminum tube to slide in here to make a spacer, so that when I tightened down the bolts, it didn't crunch this down. Well, aluminum is not the right answer. I've actually switched over to doing steel, but in the final design that I came up with on this, I'm actually mounting it to the outside of the stick. So you could technically just go ahead and leave your steps on there, and they will automatically create those spacers. You should probably still go ahead and replace the bolts, because they're going to be just probably a little too short sticking this on here. This piece of metal is 4" by 1.58, this leg, and then I believe it's 3/16 is the thickness here. It's thicker than my Predator platform that my wife got me for Christmas, which is really the only reason why I'm taking this apart, because I don't want to have this step on there and the Predator platform. When I first came up with the idea, I put it on this side of the step, thinking that it would just add a little leverage, add a little more strength. I butted it all the way down to this plate, and that's why I had to take these steps off. I butted it all the way down, and then figured out where the holes went, and the problem is that this metal in particular has this bevel right here. You can see it gets thicker as it comes up to the point there. Well, by having it on the back side here, it made it so that the platform tilted up. So when you're standing in the tree, your feet are really only coming in contact with this front edge. So by moving it to the outside of the stick, then you can run it flat, And it gives you from here to where the tree is, which is back here, it gives you just over 7 inches of depth there, which is really nice as far as being able to kind of switch your feet around for your like 1 and 2 o'clock shots on any of the offside shots. Really, I mean, it makes it much easier to flip your feet around and be able to get that draw much easier. You could really buy a piece of this aluminum, do your figures on the holes here, which I have that number for you also actually. So then just cut off the ends, put those holes in there, and use it. I would probably put something on here for traction, some truck bed liner, or put some sand and some paint and put it on here. I went ahead and, like I said, used the grinder wheel, and I just knocked down some of the front right here just for some traction. And I just threw this together just as an experiment. So I put some more holes in here. You don't really lose any weight by doing that, but I think it helps with traction. And then I also just made some grinder marks, not very deep, just deep enough to, like I said, add a little bit of traction. I threw some random paint on it. I've been using it for a while, so some of the paint's rubbed off, but it obviously doesn't affect anything. I got 2 deer last week actually, so yeah, pretty simple. This one is 14 inches. It weighs 1.87, I believe. Yes, 1.87 pounds, which is lighter than your other standalone platforms. It's heavier than, I believe, there's a company that's called Artisan Metal Fabrication or something like that. They make a really cool stick top platform. It's got a leg that comes down here. The difference between that one and this one, it's just a little more money, that one is, and it's really well done. It's great platform. It mounts here going back towards the tree. It's also got these legs that come down here to add some more stability and stuff like that. The only problem I had was honestly that you only get this 3.5, 4 inches of foot space here. They've put a notch in this, and it's a cool thing, but I like messing with different ideas and stuff. Like I said, I've been doing this, been using it for a month and a half or so. No issues. The holes all stand up well. The stick stands up well doing it this way, because I was concerned that this was being aluminum and stuff, but the way they've designed this stick in particular, with all these extra spaces and bevels and things like that, it's a pretty strong stick. The only thing I've noticed is that when I'm in the tree and I put all my pressure out here on the front edge, you get a slight bow in the center of the stick. And I was concerned that would create kickouts and stuff like that, but when I've got 3 sticks, so I get up on this one last and I'm on this one, I get down for my hunt. This one is the hardest one to get off the tree. It's actually dug in really well, and I don't know if it's because of that flex helping it. I haven't had any kick out issues. I've had it on all different kinds of trees. But yeah, I mean that's about all there is to it. It would have been probably pretty simple just to put a picture of this on there and everything else, but I think that it's worth mentioning putting the washer in the space on the stick to make this here level. Make sure you use grade 8. They have plenty of strength in those to not break. And then just check your stuff regularly. You should be anyway. Check your ropes, check everything else. Check this every now and then. Make sure you haven't got any cracks or anything else. I'm in central Illinois. I've had down in the low teens for temperatures while I've been using this. I usually sit 4+ hours on it. So it's got a lot of hours logged in a month and a half, hunting just about every day. When you go to put your holes in here for where your stick goes, a couple different things you could do. The spacing on your stick is the holes are 1 1/16 is what the spacing is on the holes. So you could measure from the end of your cut aluminum before you do all your angles and stuff like that. Find the center and then just go just slightly over a 1/2 inch either direction from that center mark. Or like I did here, I just pulled this out of the ink pen, and then you can push this through the hole of the stick. And when you've got you have to take the steps off, but then you can push it through the hole of the stick and make marks on this aluminum here for where you need to drill your holes. Either way would work, just whatever you're the most confident with. If you're good with measuring, do that. Otherwise, pull off your steps, which is a pain in the butt also with those washers, and then just go through and do that. Yeah, so I believe that's really all there is to it. I used, like I said, I took the steps out. It saved me just a little bit of weight. I don't know that it was really worth it, and I just took a piece of steel in the end and cut 7/16" spacers, really. You could actually use washers or something like that if you are concerned about the weight. But I just cut out of that steel tubing 7/16" spacers that would slide in here, and then that keeps it from, when you tighten your bolt down on the back side, your nut down on the back side of this, keeps it from crunching this together and creating issues. When I did my aluminum ones, I actually did crunch it down a little bit, and it was kind of a pain to get it opened back up in order to put my steps back in so that I could go back to using these with the Predator. Dang, also using the daisy chains, if you haven't tried these out, Trevor Boyd, I got these from him. Pushing Up Daisies, I believe, is his Facebook group name, and they're amazing. Just makes setup so much faster and lighter than any of the other ways that I've seen to use. But that's it. That's not it. Also, for packing these, I actually made sure that whenever I built the platform, I put it on my outside stick because it sticks up a little higher right here. The platform, of course, hanging out this way doesn't make a difference. That would be one question with the Artisan one, is that it would be hanging inside. So you'd probably have to keep these steps folded down, the second set, if that's even possible. So I put mine on the back of just a cheap Amazon pack. I think it's like $35, and put it right in the center. I put bungee cords across. I put a bungee cord to a MOLLE strip over here and then loop it around, do the same thing over here on the bottom and top. And I've tried to actually hit my head on it to make sure that if something happened out in the woods or something, that I wouldn't hurt myself. And it sits far enough back there that it's not an issue. It stays below my head, and I don't think I have the ability to even hit my head with it. So that's another positive thing to it. I think 2 foot of this I found was $24 plus shipping. I know I bought mine years ago. I bought like 8 feet of it. I was going to do some Jeep bumpers, and that it never happened. I went with a different thing or whatever. So I know that if you buy a larger quantity, so if you and a buddy need platforms, you buy 3 feet, it's cheaper, and so you guys can cut your cost down there. So I would assume that with shipping on this and your bolts, probably under $40 for a pretty decent usable platform. Like I said, be safe. Don't go drilling a bunch of holes in it. I drilled just some random ones in here. Nothing that would mess with the structural strength of it. Cut the edges off. That was mostly just so it had less sharp edges. I did go ahead and round off these points also. So if you did fall, you get a little less of a scrape rather than having all the jagged edges out there. But there it is. It's pretty cool. Have fun.